What's up, fam? So this video that I want to make today is going to be called it's going to be the first of a series. It's going to be called the LWS slash BMP Talking Point series. And what the LWS slash BMP stands for is liberal white supremacists and boule media puppet talking points. Now, the liberal white supremacists, as many of you know, but some of you may not, are the liberals, the progressives. That includes the Hillary Clintons, Kamala Harris's, the Bernie Sanders, and all their supporters, especially the white ones, who appear to be of the two political choices that white supremacy presents to us, which is left or right. They are the ones who appear to be on our sides. Obviously, they're the ones who pretend to address black people's concerns, who will even point out all the racial disparities in our society, the mass incarceration gaps, the wealth gaps, the education gaps, etc., etc., etc. They're very willing to point out these differences between the way white people live and the way black people live, and the quality of life indicators, like I said, like mass incarceration, like wealth gap, all these things go to quality of life. They'll point out all of these things, but the one thing they won't do is give any specific solutions to these kind of issues. They always offer non-solutions, and every time you challenge them or press them on giving a specific solution for the issues of black people, they always, without fail, will not give you a specific solution, a specific policy that will address these disparities. Black people obviously have been treated differently. They have been discriminated against differently. That's why that's why there's such disparities in our quality of life, because we have been treated disparately. So we need disparate compensation, disparate repair for our issues. But because guess what? If we're both poor, or not both poor, if we're two people and one person is rich and one person is poor, and your alleged solution to making the person who is poor, who has been, maybe they're poor because they have been in this case, because the poor person is black people, for my example, they have been historically made to be poor by racist policies and basically, just long story short, the system of white supremacy. Do you know how offensive it is to come to the poor person and the rich person and say, well, I'm going to give you both $1, and because of the fact that I'm giving you both $1, that's helping the person that's poor because they got $1 too. But it's not addressing the issue that you pretended that it would address, which is closing and making the poor person closer to the rich person, when it's not, because you gave the rich person $1 too. So they're still they're still in the same position that they were before compared to the poor person, because you gave us both $1. So I'm not $1 richer, and they're still just the same. I'm not $1 closer to them. The gap has not been closed at all, because there's a gap, an admitted gap by the liberals. But then they come to you with a solution for all people. You know what I'm talking about. Cory Booker, these cats, he recently came out and said that. But it's not just him. It's been an old trick bag of the white supremacists. We're going to give you a policy, and it's going to help everybody, and therefore by default it's going to help you, when it's not the case. Because if we have disparate mass incarceration, disparate wealth gaps, addressing mass incarceration for quote-unquote everybody, it may reduce it for black people, but we're still going to be disparately incarcerated as compared to white people, and that should not be the case. We should not live in a white supremacist society. And don't give me the talking points about black people are more criminal. I know most people on this video, or who will listen to the video, won't do that. And I don't know if I should, because so many of us have already debunked that talking point, that white supremacist talking point about us being more criminal. I don't even know if it's worth it to try to put that out there. But those of us who aren't white supremacists, or aren't fools who are easily tricked by white supremacists, we know that's some nonsense. Has nothing to do with black people being more criminal. It's the system of white supremacy. Sociological studies show that when you put people in poverty situations, the crime rate goes up. That goes for white, black, whoever. But anyway, I digress, because this video is not about the crime rates. But anyway, it's just to point out how disrespectful the liberal white supremacists are. And to me, that's what confirms they're white supremacists. And, I speak about Neely Fuller, and I talked about how I listen to him and other people, and I don't agree with everything, almost none of the people I listen to, I don't agree with everything they say. But there are certain people who I agree with a lot of what they say, and then even other people who I may only agree with some of what they say. But if you're saying good stuff, even if it's some good stuff, I'll give you a chance. Maybe I don't take everything you say, or I take some of the things you say with a grain of salt, and I don't take anyone as my leader or my God or my saint. So people are flawed, and they may make points that I don't agree with, and I'm not afraid to say that. But I'm bringing up Millie Fuller to say that he likes to say a lot of times that people are suspected white supremacists, which I'll say that too. But then he rarely ever says that someone is a confirmed white supremacist unless they basically outright confess to being a confirmed white supremacist, which white supremacists almost never do. I mean, that's part of one of the biggest tools of white supremacy is denying white supremacy. So anyway, I bring him up because when you do these kind of disrespectful things to black people, that makes you a confirmed white supremacist in my eyes. So for that reason, that's why I'm calling them liberal white supremacists, because that's what they are. They're liberal white supremacists. But anyway, I do intend to make this video shorter than other videos. So I'm trying to keep it shorter. Obviously, not doing such a good job so far, but I want to keep it shorter. So moving on, I just wanted to try to put out some quick points to just prove or show why I'm calling them liberal white supremacists, because that's what they are as far as I'm concerned. If you're coming out here disrespecting black people, willing to admit to the disparities in black life, and then still offer a solution for quote unquote everybody, you're a white supremacist. If you're a white person coming to us with this, if you're a black person, then you're a boule puppet. You may not be a media puppet. I know I'm putting that as the title because those are the main ones who are used to communicate messages, and those are the ones I'm addressing with the talking points I'm about to address. But that's what the BMP stands for, boule media puppets. They're the black tokens of the liberal white supremacists. They're the messengers of the liberal white supremacists, and they do the bidding of the liberal white supremacists, which is to, liberal white supremacists, they like to prop up a black person, a black politician, or whomever, allow them to practice white supremacy behind that black person, and then when things go wrong for black people, the black people can look at that black person, which we should be looking at the Barack Obamas and the Kamala Harrises and pointing them out as the tools and the puppets they are. But don't forget that it's white people behind them. It's white people that are the reason why they're doing these things, because the white people are their paymasters. The white people are the ones propping them up in front of the black society to do a particular job. So that's what the liberal white supremacists and the boule puppets are. The boule media puppets in particular are the Roland Martins, the Simone Sanders, the Angela Rees, these political contributors on CNN or other quote-unquote black outlets that are owned by white people, like The Root, Ebony, Jet Magazine, these type of publications which have black all over them and may have at one point been owned by black people, but 90, if not 100% of these quote-unquote media outlets are now black owned. I mean, not black owned, white owned, and they do the bidding of the liberal white supremacists. But anyway, now to the meat of the video. I just wanted to get out that introduction. And oh yeah, so sorry, backtrack a little bit. So the purpose of this video though is to point out their talking points. And the reason why I wanted to point out their talking points and the points they use to deceive black people and to continue to get them to continue to keep them voting for Democrats and whites and liberal white supremacists who are against their interest. One of the main tools that they use to keep black people doing this is their boule puppets. They put out certain talking points and then they drown you with them. And the reason why I want to point out these talking points is because what they'll do is they'll put out a talking point, and white supremacy plays the long game. So they'll put out a talking point and they'll almost do it like it's focus group testing or market testing, where a company will put out a product and they'll have a test group or a focus group try out the product, come back with their opinion, and if there's a bunch of critiques or a bunch of flaws, they'll come back and fix it. And a lot of times they won't even fix the product, they'll just fix the presentation or fix the advertising of the product to present it differently so that it's more marketable to the people, so that more people will buy it. And it's the same thing with liberal white supremacists. They'll put out talking points to see if these points are going to work on black people, and then if they don't, they'll refine them and then put them right back out. Or if they appear effective, then they'll say, hey, this is going to work, and then next thing you know, it's one or two people saying it, and it's easy to ignore because it is one or two people saying it, so you can just address that person and move on. But then the next thing you know, all the boule media puppets are saying it, and all the liberal white supremacists are saying it. And then if any black person tries to challenge it or calls it out, especially a liberal white supremacist, they'll point to their black puppets and say, this isn't racist, this isn't a racist trick, this isn't a racist scam, there's nothing white supremacist about this. Black people said this. The black man on the street said this. We're just reporting what the black people on the street are saying, and the black people on the street are their boule puppets. They're the Simone Sanders. They're the Angela Reeds. They're the Roland Martins. They're these Negro whisperers who are propped up by white society to speak for black society and to put the quote-unquote black opinion in the American discourse. And it's always a liberal, white supremacist, Democrat-leaning opinion. And even though a lot of these talking points, at least to me, are obvious, I still want to put them out there so that they can be countered. And even though I feel that most of my listeners probably already have ways to counter these talking points and already know what to say to counter these talking points, apparently enough of us don't, because we still vote for Democrats overwhelmingly. I mean, even recently in 2016, it was 96% of black women put their vote towards Hillary Clinton, who's a super predator, white supremacist. And then what was it, like 88% or something close to that number of black men who voted for Hillary Clinton. So even though I will admit I see a lot more of us being on code against white supremacy more than ever before, definitely more than I saw 2 years ago. Apparently still enough of us are not on code, because I know and still I feel and know that we are still heavily lean towards Democrats and quote unquote progressives like Bernie Sanders, and he's just another Democrat, which I'm probably gonna make a video talking about how Bernie's just any other Democrat, any other white supremacist Democrat, because a lot of black people, even the black people who seem to be more awoke than others are, even especially the black people who appear to be more awoke than your average black person, they still support Bernie Sanders, and he's just another white supremacist. But that's not what the purpose of this video. I just wanted to put out an intro explaining what a boule puppet is, and a liberal white, not a video, because this is just an intro, but an intro pointing out the liberal white supremacists and the boule media puppets and their job. But anyway, into the video now and their talking point. So the first talking point, because I obviously can't break down every talking point in one video, because if I did, it would be like a 10-hour video, because the white supremacists have so many talking points, so many trick bags, because that's what they are. They're tricks, they're deceptions to mislead black people and keep them in a oppressed condition. Like I said, the all-American policy, I just want to reiterate, the we're going to help all Americans policy, it's disrespectful, because you will sit up here and in one sentence acknowledge that black people have a different condition, and then say that their different condition is going to be resolved by a catch-all solution, when we know that if you give the same thing to two people who are in disparate positions, they're going to come out in disparate positions, because you advantage the people who are not disadvantaged. Yes, you advantage the people who are, but you also advantage the people who are not disadvantaged. And that's why at the end of the day, all of these rising tide lift all boats strategy doesn't work for black people, because we've already noticed this never works for us. Every time we've tried to allow this to happen, our conditions don't improve. Obamacare was a supposedly improve all Americans' life policy, but guess what? If you look at the statistics about black health and white health, it's still disparate. Black health care and white health care, it's still disparate. Even with Obamacare, this so-called policy that's going to help all Americans, the medical conditions of black people, their access to health care is still disparate as compared to white people. So we already know that these things are non-solutions. And this is what makes them, and this is why I say I disagree with nearly fully when everybody's a confirmed, I mean not a confirmed, but a suspected white supremacist, because these people are confirmed white supremacists. But anyway, to the meat of the video. So the first talking point I want to expose is the talking point of misogyny when black people critique Kamala Harris. So I want to start with Simone Sanders. So Simone Sanders came out and attacked Luther Campbell, also known as Uncle Luke. He was a rapper back in the day. Most of us know who he is, but those of you who don't, he was a rapper back in the day. But now he writes articles for the Miami New Times. And so Simone Sanders, back to Uncle Luke. Luther Campbell put out an article critiquing Kamala Harris. And this article, the majority of the article was about Kamala Harris's record. There was like one sentence mentioning her husband, but the majority of the article was about the politics of Kamala Harris, not her personal life. And the politics of Kamala Harris are undeniable. She has very anti-black policies. She defended corrupt cops. She fought to keep prisoners in overcrowded prisons. She's implementing these truancy laws that disproportionately affect black women. This was the meat of Luther Campbell's article, is critiquing her policies and her politics. However, one thing he did point out was her husband in that article. And when Simone Sanders, who was a Boule Media puppet, political contributor for CNN, so she gets a paycheck for that, and there's strings attached to that paycheck. Obviously, that's what makes her a Boule Media puppet. She saw that article, and her response was, why do black men keep coming out with their unsolicited opinions about Kamala Harris? Uncle Luke is no political strategist or expert. This was her response to that tweet. Now, in the comment section of that tweet that she decided to put out after reading Uncle Luke's article, and this is why I was saying a little bit ago that I'm, a little bit pleasantly surprised that I see that black people are more woke than they were even 2 years ago, even though I don't think we're at where we need to be yet, but we're getting really close to that critical mass that we need to really make some change. I'm seeing a lot more black people awoke. But anyway, I'm saying that to say, when she put out this tweet, black people were all in the comment section ripping her apart, and rightfully so, because if you replace black men with Jews, Asians, LGBT, gay people, whatever, immigrants, if you ask why immigrants are coming out with their unsolicited opinions, why women are coming out with their unsolicited opinions, why gay people are coming out with their unsolicited opinions, Simone Sanders would not only be forced to apologize on social media for her comments, but she would also lose her job. She would be done on CNN. Let her come out and say, why are Jews having unsolicited opinions about politics? But it's okay to say that for black people because she works for the liberal white supremacists. So it's okay to say that about black people. Just don't say it about nobody else. So anyway, black people ripped her up, rightfully so, for saying that. And once she got cut up, enough on social media, she decided to come out and defend her statement by saying, well, I only said that because he's a misogynist and he mentioned Kamala Harris's husband. And I want to point this out because, like I said, what they'll do is they'll put out a talking point and only one or two of them will say it, and then next thing you know, they're all saying it. So what she did is she's doing what a couple of them are doing, because Angela Reed tried to say it, a couple of other puppets try to say it. They all say the same things. Like I said, they get on code real quick, and it starts out as one person, and then the next thing you know, they're all saying it. So I want to address this misogyny excuse before it gets public, so that those of you who aren't already equipped to counter it can. So if it's misogynist to mention Kamala Harris's husband, is it not misogynist to mention, not misogynist, but is it not misandrist to mention Taye Diggs' wife, which even though he's not with that woman anymore, when he was, black women were pointing out that he was with a white woman. Black women were attacking Tyrese for his wife, even though she looks black to a lot of people. She definitely has some black blood in her. She may not be fully black, obviously, but she definitely has at least some African ancestry. That's undeniable. You can tell by her melanin content. But there were a lot of black women out here saying that Tyrese's wife wasn't black. And I want to point this out because the kind of black women who will point out a high-profile black man's wife are mostly the same kind of black women who will vote for Kamala Harris, who voted for Hillary Clinton. Hell, was 96% of black women. So if I saw black women out here critiquing Tyrese or whomever it may be, at least some of them had to be some of the same ones who voted for Hillary Clinton, since damn near all black women voted for Hillary Clinton. So I'm pointing out that to say that the crowd that will actually take anything Simone Sanders says seriously, who sees her as somebody intelligent, somebody to follow, somebody who's politically astute, somebody who is speaking for the black community, the women who would be Simone Sanders' audience, they are the main ones who would be out here critiquing a Tyrese or whomever it may be for having a non-black wife. Wesley Snipes, all these guys. Now, am I out here, is the purpose of it to defend black men who date non-black women? No. I have my opinions about that. Most of them aren't positive. But no, this video is not, that's not the purpose of this video, is to, and this video is already not short. So forget I said it was going to be short. It's already not short. But the purpose of this is not to defend them. It's to point out the hypocrisy. If pointing out Kamala Harris's husband is misogynist, then pointing out any black man's wife is misandrous. And misandry is the other version of misogyny. It's hatred towards men instead of women. It's misandry. For example, let's say Barack Obama. I know obviously the easy example would be to say, oh, if Barack Obama had a white wife, he would have never got elected, which is probably true. But hey, I'm not even going to say that. I'm not even going to put that argument out there. My argument is, let's say forget before he got elected. He's already been elected. He's already been president. He's already done being president. Let's say right now, he's already an ex-president. Right now, Barack Obama divorces Michelle and marries a white woman. I promise you, there will be hundreds of thousands of black women out there attacking Barack Obama. And some of them will probably be the Boule puppets. I bet you at least one of them, if not all of them, at least Simone Sanders or Angela Ree or one of these people, Joy Reid, one of them would get up on TV or get up on Twitter somewhere, or one of these people who work for the Root or Ebony, one of them would get up and say, if not multiple, would have something negative to say about Barack Obama and his new choice of wife. But now, all of a sudden, and the critique would be, like I said, even though some might have something to say, because it would probably still be a story if he divorced Michelle, period. But the anger would not be there if he had divorced Michelle and married another black woman, that it would be if Barack Obama divorced Michelle and married a white woman. It would not be the same type of anger and the same type of critique for him, even though some people might still have a problem, because a lot of people have an affection for Michelle. So a lot of people might still have a problem no matter what woman he went to. And obviously, I'm not saying he's going to go to another woman, but no matter what woman he went to, obviously some women will have a problem regardless. But I'm telling you, the art, and you guys know this, everybody knows this, we all as black people know this, it's not something to be argued about. We all know that a lot of black women will have some smoke for Barack Obama, especially if he went and married a white woman. And even if he, like I said, was coming to us with a white woman before he got elected, a lot of them same people would have been willing to point that out. If Cory Booker had a white wife, a lot of black women would be willing to point that out. So why is it all of a sudden now when we point out Kamala Harris, who is a politician who's trying to have power over us, and who we as black people know in our black experience, black people who date white people have a higher chance of being compromised. They have a higher chance of doing things that are against black people or saying things that are against black people. We all know this. So for us to point out a woman who already has a history of anti-black policies, and someone who's trying to be the person who pushes for policies for black people as president, or presents herself as that person. So for us to point out her spouse is misogynist, but you point out an actor who is not going to have any power over your life. He can't put in any policies. Taye Diggs can't pass any legislation that's going to affect black women. But y'all still got some. Terrence Howard can't pass any legislation that's going to affect black women. But y'all still got something to say about him. So if I just wanted to point that out to say that this talking point is nonsense. It's totally nonsense. If pointing out Kamala Harris's husband is a misogynist thing, then pointing out any black man's wife is misandrous. It's simple. And I'm only saying that not to say that we should be running around saying that any black woman who points out a black man's wife is a misandrous, but just to point out the hypocrisy and the ridiculous logic that these liberal white supremacists, and the disrespectful logic that these liberal white supremacists and their Boule media puppets present to us. It's disrespectful and it's offensive because it's ridiculous. And I just wanted to point out how ridiculous it is. Mentioning her husband does not make you a misogynist. It makes you a black person who's willing to tell the truth. That's all it makes you. The second point I want to point out is critiquing her period because she's a woman makes you a misogynist. And this point is a lot easier to debunk because this point is simple, because I mentioned people, like I said, Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth, even some women, Fly Nubian Queen Network, shout out to those sisters, shout out to True Royal Family, that sister. There's brothers and sisters out here in our community that are already making videos critiquing Kamala Harris and others. But because Kamala Harris came out first and came out on MLK Day, the focus was on her at first because she came out first. And one of their early talking points that they were going to try to put out there was, oh, you're misogynist because you have critiques for Kamala, but you don't look critically at any of these other candidates. And you'll find that a lot of the things you're saying about Kamala are also true for these other candidates, but you're only talking about Kamala because she's a woman and you hate women. So this is not a serious political critique. This is based in misogyny. That's the other talking point. That forget talking about her husband, critiquing her, period, is misogyny. But a lot of the same people who they said were misogynists, like Tariq Nasheed, like Professor Black Truth, the men who critiqued Kamala Harris, and even some of the women, because they'll say it's internalized misogyny. These same people now have videos now that Cory Booker has come out critiquing him. Tariq Nasheed has tweets and videos critiquing Cory Booker, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, all these quote-unquote misogynists out here in the black community or the pro-black community, whatever you want to call us, who were critiquing Kamala Harris. We have the same smoke for Cory Booker, because this is not about you being a woman or a man. This is about the policies that you are enacting and whether or not you are representing black society or you representing liberal white supremacist trick bags. Like, we're going to help all Americans. Offensive, disrespectful talking points that you come to black people and expect them to take seriously. And that's all I wanted to do, because like I said, now you've already seen, you're not going to see that talking point anymore. You will rarely see it, especially against people like Tariq Nasheed or these other people, is because they can't say it no more. Because as soon as Cory Booker came out, we had the same smoke for him. We got the same issues with him that we got with Kamala. The non-specifics, the evasion. Cory Booker doesn't have the horrendous, even though he does have a bad record in some ways, he doesn't have the horrendous record that Kamala Harris has. But he's no better as far as what he's proposing. It's a bunch of all-American trick bags, which don't help black people. So I just wanted to point that out, the holes in this. And like I said, the video, the purpose of the video is to point out these deceptions, these tricks, these lies that these liberal white supremacists put out to deceive us. And even though a lot of us are equipped to counter them, just in case some of us aren't, I want to give us the ammo, and I want us to all be on code. Because like I said, they'll put it out, one of them will say it, and the next thing you know, they're all saying it. They're all repeating the same thing. They're all saying the same thing, and it's just because what white supremacy does is they make lies reality. They'll put something out there, they'll say something, and they'll say it enough, and they'll try to act on it enough to the point where it becomes true. Or at least if it doesn't become true, it effectively deceives its victims, which is 9 times out of 10 black people. Alright? So anyway, fam, that's this video. I'm going to be making the next video. I'm going to be pointing out the deception and the strategy behind this Russian bot talk, which is it's another white supremacist trick bag that they actually put out the focus group for that. They actually put that out during Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I'm gonna backtrack all the way to before Trump even won the presidency to point out how long they've been working on this Russian bot trick bag that they're going to use to attack and silence black people who call out the Democratic white supremacists. And the last thing I want to say too, fam, to wrap up the video, is none of this video, me calling out liberal white supremacists this series, since this video is going to be the first of this series, it's not to give conservative white supremacists a pass. Like I said, it's obvious. We know conservatives, Republican coons, even the black people who are fooled, we can obviously see those people are coons. That's why they don't put them out as the representative of black society. These Republicans, these black people running around in MAGA hats, they don't put them on TV and present them as the voice of black society, because they know even the black people who are fooled by the liberal white supremacists, even we know, most of us, obviously the Republican coons themselves don't know, but the rest of us, we know, and even a lot of Republican coons do know that they're coons, but that's also another topic for another video. But all of us know, the majority of us know, it's obvious that those people are puppets, they're Sambos, they're Shines, they're puppets, all right? It's obvious. So we know that the Donald Trumps, the Jeff Sessions, the Lindsey Grahams, these type of people, they're white supremacists, and the people who support them are obviously, the black people who support them are obvious coons. It's not arguable. So there's no need to dismantle their talking points, because it's really just black on black crime and that type of nonsense anyway. So That's why I want to point, because the liberal white supremacists are obviously the ones who have been commissioned by white supremacy to deceive black people. It's their specific job. The Republicans, they're allowed to be as open white supremacists as you're allowed to be without admitting to it, because almost no white supremacists will admit to it. But at least among the white supremacists who don't admit to being white supremacists, Republicans are the far more obvious white supremacists. So there's not really a need to dismantle their talking points, but there's definitely a need to dismantle these liberal white supremacist talking points. And I just want to make a video debunking the misogyny talking point, because it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's a deception to get black women to ignore the black men who are telling them to not vote for Kamala Harris, and even the other black women who are telling them to not vote for Kamala Harris, and dismiss it as misogyny. That's all it is. Even though it's a lie, even though it's ludicrous, even though if you look at it logically, it makes absolutely no sense. And it's full of hypocrisy, especially the people who are being told to put it out there, these black women, because they are the main group who will critique a black man for his choice of a non-black wife. So anyway, fam, that's the video. Like I said, nowhere near sure I wanted it to be 30 minutes, but hopefully y'all listen and enjoy. Like, share, subscribe. See y'all on the next video. Peace.